You want to be able to learn complex topics. In this video, we are going to show you 7 baby steps that you are going to be able to learn all the complex topics in the world. And we are going to give you this framework so you will learn how to diverge and converge in these topics. Welcome to the journey. This is Rifat, and I'm a bilingual person which has lived more than 10 different cities all over the globe. I have worked in more than 50 different projects end-to-end, and I was able to do self-learning and especially video learning in order to be able to reverse engineer the products that I have created and the projects that I have mentioned here. I went to 2 different universities, but that's a different story. At the end, I will show you the steps for you to be able to create a self-learning system for yourself. Once you understand it, it is going to be very, very direct forward for you. You are going to understand, remember, be able to apply, and be able to create at the end. Everything starts with the real. This is our first step. You are going to define your job. Right now we have the GPT. Your manager will come up to you and say, set up this Kubernetes environments and do a remote write. So that's very complex, lots of symbols that's going to come in. You need to be able to absorb everything for your job. You have to be able to write it down to GPT and ask question when, why, how, where. These questions are going to help you to be able to understand your job. That is the first step. The second step, you are going to create something called the slides. You can use Google Slides, you can use Canva, all these different tools. You can even use paper though. That's very, very important. When I was a kid, I was using these memory cards. In one part, there's a question. On the other part, there was the answer. So you need an environment for your learning in this real world. Because what we are doing is, in the first 3 steps, you are setting up your reality. And in the next 3 steps, we are going to go to the fantasy. But before we go to the fantasy, the third stage is we are going to create our images in those slides where we want to go. You can do a Google search and collect everything that you are going to go for. It doesn't have to be Kubernetes. It can be just cooking a special meal that you want to learn and memorize. Once you are able to do that, you are going to put all these pictures inside. Once you put the pictures inside, it is going to be your storyline, meaning in those presentations, you are creating a frame-by-frame system to be able to follow up, for you're going to put all these pictures inside. Once you put the pictures inside yourself, to be able to do your job, this is very, very important. You are creating your own storyline and you are going to be able to follow it. That is the real part of our learning framework. First your job, second the slides, then we are going to place images in those slides. The next stage of this process is going into the fantasy. Right now the GPT is very, very popular. So the first stage is you are going to set up your formulas. Once you set up your formulas, you are going to ask the GPT, how can I do this step by step? How can I set up a Kubernetes cluster step by step? It's going to give you the steps, and you are going to understand there are some formulas here that you have to be able to follow. All these processes, the workflow, you are going to follow it. That is very, very important for you. It can be about anything. As long as you get all the symbols and the formula, you are done. The 5th stage is inside those slides, you are going to enter the symbols. The formulas and the symbols don't come into the same place. I put my formulas into the note section and I put my symbols as a big text box in the system. What I do is once I put the symbols, I use something called the arrows. I make sure that there is always a direction from this symbol to this symbol. It comes from the formulas. If it is E equals E mc squared, you are going to see there's E at the start, C squared at the end, and there's a direction in that formula. In the symbols, you are going to show all the directions in your formula, so it is going to be much easier for you. At the end of the fantasy world, we are going to go into something called semblance. Semblance is the part where we start the Avengers, like the Avengers coming into semblance. What we are going to go through is we are not going to do our job only in one environment. We are going to make sure we use multiple environments in here. Such as when I use my GPT, I have an environment, a basic web page to trigger the GPT, or I use Copilot, or I use something called an app called Cursor. So I have different environments to be able to practice everything that I am doing, though. So all live in this capitalistic world. Everybody has a semblance. Everybody is fighting in this world. So everybody's fight is going to be different. I'm a DevOps engineer. I work on DevOps. I'm a immigrant. I'm trying to get the passports. So everybody has a different semblance points where everything comes together. All the Avengers comes together in an environment. That's our 6th point. Once you understand where you are in this fight, it is going to be much easier for you to deliver. Make sure, are you in the fantasy world? Are you in the real world? That's very, very important. In the real world, you are converging and making sure that you get the bottom of the stuff. In a fantasy world, you are diverging. You are getting all these symbols, formulas, and the semblances. So you are making sure that there is lots of options for you in the fantasy world. Then our last step. Last part is the jouissance part. In Lacan's triad, it is in the middle though. The core thing is, if you read Ali Abdal's book, The Productivity, he is always making sure that feeling good part is inside. The jouissance is the key. He calls it the journey. But the reality is you need to make sure you are able to complete all these steps and come back to the reality. If I'm setting up a DevOps environment, I need to make sure I can turn it on. If you are cooking eggs, you need to make sure that you can do menemen. Menemen is a Turkish food that you might want to do with the eggs. So you are going to follow up your formulas. You are going to see the symbols, create an environment, and get an output. And in the first tries, it is going to be very, very slow. I never said I was very fast on the universities. Even though I went to 2 universities, I was never able to finish it because due to my nature, I'm a bit autistic and I do the things very, very slowly, especially in the first iterations. But once you started to get fun out of this, you need to make sure you are coming back to the reality and completing the cycle in a much faster fashion though. So that is very, very important. People like in my cognition, a problem-oriented person will take more time to be able to reach the reality. If you are a solution-oriented person, it is definitely going to take you much less time to be able to reach the solution. Or if you are a person, like I watch lots of rational YouTubers, they are trying to do the shortest path, but they are just gambling though. Learning is not gambling. Learning is turning your reality into a fantasy, then turning back into the reality so you can complete a job that is given to you. In this channel, I'm focusing on leveraging the AI, making sure that you are closing your skills gaps by self-learning. If you guys are interested, please go ahead and watch the other videos. I will really appreciate all the comments. There's like hundreds of comments that you are going to see down below on this video. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.